Hello, today is our daily devotion for Wednesday, July 22nd, and I am going to be in our New Testament passage, which is Philippians 1 today. And as I mentioned last week about Ephesians, there is so much good stuff in these chapters from these letters. Same with Philippians 1. I actually thought was going to talk about a certain set of verses and then kept reading, and it was like, oh no, this is what we've got to talk about today. So there's this tiny little verse in chapter 1, verse 21. Paul says, "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." And then he goes on to say, "If I am to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. Yet what shall I choose? I do not know. I'm torn between the two. I actually desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. But it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through my being with you again, your joy in Christ Jesus will overflow on account of me." So Paul's kind of going through this mental, spiritual back and forth. You kind of sense him saying, I'd kind of rather go on and be with Jesus. But if Jesus needs me here to pour into the Philippian church, to all these other churches that he's guiding and shepherding and encouraging, then he's like, then that's what I'll do. But no matter what, I am going to live fully for Christ, because either way, I'm with Jesus, like no matter what. And it actually made me think about, both of my grandfathers. I'm going to share a little bit about them briefly. So my grandpa Bob actually died in 2019. He was 100 years old. And he had some medical issues off and on, but much later in his 90s. He lived a very healthy, full, amazing life. But he, at age 100, had broken his hip, and they were debating whether or not to do surgery, and opted to go ahead and do it, even though at age 100, surgery's a little risky. So he ended up having the surgery, and before he went into surgery, he basically said, you know what, either way, I'm good. Because if I make it through this, I'm with Jesus. If I don't make it through this, I'm with Jesus. Like, he had that kind of confidence. It reminds me of what Paul was saying. Like, to live, I'm with Jesus. To die, I'm with Jesus. Like, and it almost is like they're saying, it makes no difference to me, because either way I get to be with Jesus. Well, my grandfather actually, had that surgery and did not wake up from that surgery, which I still kind of have a hard time being sad about that. Like, amazing that he lived to be 100, and like I said, had such a full life. But just that attitude came to mind as reading this about Paul. Like, either way, no matter what happens to me, I get to be with Jesus. And it's one thing to say that at age 100, but it strikes me, can I say that at age 45? Like, either way, I get to be with Jesus, no matter what happens to me. Like, that's the rock that I'm building my life on. That's my anchor. Either way, I get to be with Jesus. So what do I have to lose either way? Which is just like, let that sink in for a minute. I'm also thinking about my other grandfather, Grandpa Elmer. He, today would have been his birthday, July 22nd. He would have been 107. He died at age 91, so 16 years ago. And my sister and my grandma Dorothy and I were with my grandpa Elmer when he passed away in 2004. He had a lot of heart issues, and so we were in the hospital with him. Some other family members had left to go get lunch, and we just were sitting next to my grandpa's bed, and we had this sacred honor. It really was sacred to be with him when he took his last breath. And there just was this amazing peace that filled the room, because we knew that either way he was going to be with Jesus. It's just a powerful experience to kind of watch that transition, if you will, happen. That, like, we knew he was going into the arms of Jesus, and As Christians, that's the confidence that we have, and that frees us up in this world to live a life that can take some risks, I guess, and can live it fully. I think of this quote from Jim Elliot. He was a missionary in South America, ended up actually losing his life while being a missionary, but he has this quote that says, "Live to the hilt whatever situation you believe to be the will of God." And he put his life on the line because of that. And it strikes me, even though we're holed up at home right now and don't have much opportunity, like, are we living this moment to the fullest? Like, to live is Christ. I'm going to do whatever it is that God has put in front of me to do, and I'm going to live that to the fullest. And if it's time for me to go on to the next life, well, I still get to be with Jesus that way too. It's just, I think that attitude of Paul's really freed him up to then fully invest in the ministries that God had called him to, because he wasn't clinging to some earthly pursuit of life. Like, he was clinging to Christ no matter what. And I love what, after this passage, he goes on to say to the Philippians, "Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ." So no matter what circumstance you find yourself in, live your life in a way that is worthy of what Christ has done for us. That's just a powerful statement. So can we say with Paul that to me to live is Christ and to die is gain, and I'm torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but it's also necessary for me to be here to fulfill the mission that God has given me to live. So I guess I would just end by encouraging you, whatever gift God has given you, use it to the fullest. Whatever circumstance he has placed you in, lean fully into him and allow him to do in and through you what he needs to do in and through you. Even in this weird quarantine pandemic time that we find ourselves in, God is still at work and God still wants to use you for some purpose. So whatever it is God has called you to do, I would encourage you to pray through that. If you're not sure what it is, look at what passions God has given you, what gifts God has given you, what life experience God has given you, and live that to the fullest and make the most of what God has given you to do. Because either way, we get to be with Jesus. Like, that's the bottom line. Either way, we get to be with Jesus, whether we're here serving him or whether we're with him face to face in heaven. Either way, we get to be with Jesus, and that's who we hitch our life to in the end. So for me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. That's my prayer for myself. There are some days I'm better at that, better at remembering that than others. But just wanted to leave you with that encouragement today. I hope you have a great day.